All right, welcome everyone to Healthy Together Time Tonight. My name is Krista Pace. I'm an independent certified Optavia coach, and I'm excited to connect with all of you in our Optavia community time tonight. Whether you are a coach or a client or a friend of Optavia, I hope the time we spend together today strengthens your personal life journey toward optimal health. We're going to have some fun today. All right. So as many of you know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And tonight we're going to wrap up our Mindful May Bingo Challenge with a mindful look at the heart of becoming and the emotions of expectation. But before we get into all of that, I would love to remind you to make sure that you fill out your week 3 check-in form if you haven't done so yet. This link can be found in your Healthy Together app, your Mindful May texts or emails. You could even ask your coach. But for those of you who are on tonight, I am going to throw the link right into the chat. So for those of you that are on, if you haven't filled out your Mindful May Week 3 check-in, there is the link. You can fill that out. We want to make sure you get this done as soon as possible to be entered into our bonus $50 drawings that are coming up. Hasn't this challenge been fun? I would love to have all those participating tonight put a 25 in the chat if you achieved a bingo blackout. With that free yoga space in the middle, that means you watched all 24 Mindful May videos and you've begun to practice mindfulness in your life. Wow, you guys, look, those 25s are coming in. It's so fun. This is incredible. And if you had a favorite topic or something that you started incorporating in your mindfulness routine, share that in the chat too. We had someone comment earlier that they loved fact versus story. There's so many great mindfulness techniques and exercises that we've learned this month. I wish there was a way to quantify the impact that this challenge has had on me. From my perspective, I am showing up more and more as the dominant force in my life because of this month's mindful focus. Do any of you feel the same way? Also, my heart is aching tonight for the many impacted by the events in Texas yesterday. And I can't help but feel that mental health awareness is one of the most important messages that we can share right now. And it takes all of us. If it is safe to do so, I invite you to place your hands on your hearts for just a moment to honor those who are suffering today. Thank you. And while we are being mindful, let's express a little gratitude for the 4 components of our Habits of Health system. If you are new to our community, I encourage you to explore these components further with the person who invited you. Once you make the decision to engage on your own optimal health journey with Optavia, utilizing all 4 components has the power to help you transform your life. Each of us has an independent Optavia coach that's linking arms with us on our individual journeys. We have an incredible Habits of Health transformational system that guides us in the mindset work and helps us move forward toward lifelong health. We have, of course, our Optavia community. I just love looking at everyone joining tonight. It's so fun to be a part of this massive movement of people working to improve their own lives and the lives of millions around the world. And finally, what a blessing it is to have our scientifically designed fuelings that help us reach our goals and create space to engage with the other 3 components. Just take a moment to see how integrating all 4 components is helping you to become. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I hope to awaken you tonight to the heart of becoming. This heart, instead of being the amazing organ that you're probably thinking of, is a process that I have noticed on my personal journey to become. And whether you feel it or not, this process is beating inside you even now. HEART is an acronym of actions that lead us forward. These actions include hope, expect, allow, receive, think, and do. So let's get started. The H and E of our acronym stands for hope and expect. As we consider our hopes and expectations, I invite you to examine the word prosperity. Prosperity is defined as a flourishing or thriving condition, good fortune, wealth, success in anything good or desirable. Now, who here wants more of that? I'll raise my hand first. I sure want some more. But I think that prosperity is more of an attitude than a condition. The Latin roots of prosper bring added clarity to this idea. Pro means forward, forth, or toward the front. Spere means according to expectation or according to one's hope. Many might say then that prosper or prospere means forward in hope or expectation. But may I suggest that maybe it means forward in hope and expectation. So let's consider for just a moment the differences between hope and expectation. I found an interesting blog post from Thane Marcus Ringler, a Christian entrepreneur and coach, that gave some interesting insights on hope and expectation. He states, having hope means you are trusting the process. Having an expectation means you are trusting the results. Now, I remember when I first started the Optimal Weight 5-1 plan, I had just had a thyroidectomy after being diagnosed with thyroid cancer the month before. I had struggled with my weight and energy for many years, especially as I had each of my 5 children. I struggled with depression and anxiety, trying to be the mom I wanted to be when I felt so miserable. This cancer diagnosis flipped something. It flipped a switch inside of me. And I knew that because of my weight, I was at risk for developing more cancers and further disease, some of which were more serious than my wake-up call. That was when I reached out to my friend who had recently become a coach. I had a surface hope of losing weight and feeling better, but an even deeper hope to change my mindsets and become more of my true self. And this program was the process I engaged in to do just that. Expectation entered into my journey after my first week on program. You guys, I lost 7 pounds my first week. And I thought, wow, at this rate, I'll reach my healthy weight in like 6 weeks. I expected my weekly results to reflect similar progress. When I only lost 2 pounds my second week, I felt disappointed. You guys, I lost 9 pounds in my first 2 weeks, but I was disappointed. Isn't that funny? Maybe you have experienced some similar emotions. I'm sure glad I had a coach to remind me of my hope or the process of transformation, so I didn't give up disappointed after week 2. I went on to lose 40 pounds in 4 months, achieve my healthy weight, and begin my healthy body and mind journey that I still progress on today. Have you ever heard your coach say, trust the process? Again, hope is to trust the process. Expectation is to trust the results. Both are part of our journeys and often lead to different emotions propelling our growth and learning forward. Next, having a hope means that your future is uncertain. Having an expectation means that you are predetermining the future. How many of you have an endpoint in mind for your healthy body journey? Have you predetermined what success will look like? Do you have a result that you are planning on? Maybe it's a healthy weight or a certain level of fitness. If so, have you noticed that the closer you get to that goal, it seems like the endpoint is further away, or at least the motivation to get there has lessened? How can we have goals and feel joy in reaching them if the future is always uncertain? Can we accept that we will always be on a journey, that our future is uncertain because we hope to improve forever? I love having expectations and hopes in my future. Next, having a hope is an action of humility. Having an expectation can be an act of pride. Now, we're going to go over this for just a moment because this is kind of something that I have been dealing with lately, which is kind of interesting when where pride kind of shows up in your life. But as coaches or clients, how often do we trust our mentors as they encourage us to follow the system? How often do we think, you know what? I think I might know a better way. Well, another mentor that we have other than our coach is our Optivia You guide. You guys, I find that sometimes I feel pretty proud of the fact that I can estimate 6 ounces of chicken and 3 servings of veggies. But when it comes right down to it, measuring or weighing my protein and measuring my vegetables in accordance with these guidelines, the guidelines of my plan, you guys, it's an act of humility, right? This is a great heart check to see if you are trusting the system and trusting your coach. So kind of a wake-up call for me, for sure. Finally, our last comparison here is that having a hope does not disappoint, and having an expectation often falls short. I currently have a hope to strengthen my relationships with my children as they are growing up. I planned an incredible vacation where I expected this amazing connection to happen. And when we got sick and had to cancel our vacation, my predetermined future didn't happen. And I was disappointed. But guess what? I found that I could still connect with my children spontaneously. Hope and expectation are found in relationships, each leading to emotions of growth and learning. Can we all just be okay that we have a good amount of hope and expectation within us? When I'm hope focused, I'm the creator, I'm the source of my own security, approval, and control, regardless of the external influences, right? And A and D, right? And when I'm expectation focused, I rely on the outside world for my security, approval, and control. And I'm often disappointed. If this heart of yarn represents who I am becoming, the loose strand is showing my path between hope and expectation. If you draw a nice black line in the middle with hope on the top and expectation on the bottom, this diagram may look a little familiar to those of you who have studied Element 4 in the Life book. Can you see the connection above and below the line? For those who may be new to this paradigm that represents our states of mind, when we are below the line, we have a fixed mindset. We are defensive and determined to be right. Emotionally, we repress, recycle, and retain emotion. This is where we play the roles of the drama triangle. Sometimes we play being the victim, being at the effect of what's happening around and to us. Sometimes we play the villain, blaming ourselves or others. And other times we show up as the hero seeking temporary relief. Above the line, we have a growth mindset. We are open and curious to the learning available. Emotionally, we allow, accept, and appreciate all emotions. We claim personal power as the creator. We provide loving pressure in the face of discomfort as the challenger, and we listen and provide encouragement to facilitate progress as the coach. With our human minds that are designed to seek security, approval, and control, it's really easy to judge being below the line as bad and above the line as good. But I see it more as a journey. I discover hope in above land and then travel down below to gather some expectations and get to work. When I notice I'm stuck repressing emotion, I travel to above land to process that, to be curious about what's happened, to learn, challenge myself to continue. Back and forth on my journey. Can you see that hope and expectation are part of this journey? I've decided that it's one of my personal missions in this life to remove the shame and stigma of being below the line. Shame keeps us stuck in drama. If we can begin to see the beauty of the journey between drama and empowerment, we will begin to appreciate wherever we are. So, what is it that fuels this shift from drama to empowerment that makes this journey from expectation to hope so beautiful? Well, this is where our emotions come in. The A and R of our HEART acronym stands for allow and receive. When we repress, recycle, or retain emotions again, we stay stuck. But when we allow our emotions, even the uncomfortable emotions of expectation like disappointment, sadness, or anger, we connect with and honor our physical bodies. When we connect our mind and body in this way, we are able to shift above the line and become the dominant forces in our lives. When I allow my body to offer me its wisdom and then receive it, I am amazed at how empowered I feel to choose the thoughts that serve me best. Processing emotion takes practice. These 5 simple steps are worth repeating. Step 1, name it. Name the emotion that you are feeling. Use an emotion wheel or an emotion chart if you'd like. Step 2 is to locate that sensation in your body. Step 3 is to describe the sensation using ing words. Step 4 is one of my favorites. I lovingly call it my BAM step, because BAM stands for breathe, allow, and match. I breathe through the emotion, I allow it to be there, and then I match it with movement and sound. This step is my way of telling my body that I see, hear, and honor that it has a message for me. Then, of course, step 5 is I receive the wisdom. How many of you are uncomfortable feeling the uncomfortable emotions? I know that I am. This discomfort is the reason many of us buffer our emotions with food and Netflix and other things. The human brain would rather take the path of discomfort, or rather take the path of comfort, than in the face of discomfort, right? Right. But what if we could teach our brains the power of the messages our bodies have for us through emotion? In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, details 3 core human needs necessary for a person to have meaning in his or her life. One of those fundamental needs is the need to find a redemptive perspective on your suffering, the need to redeem the negative in your life, to see the contrast between drama and empowerment and learn from it, particularly to see something good that came from your suffering or that time in drama. He argues that this does not mean that you have to turn a negative into a positive. A bad thing can still be a bad thing. However, it does mean that if you want to move forward in a meaningful life, you must find something good that came from that experience. Consider this quote: "Pain from problems and disappointments is inevitable in life, but suffering is a choice determined by whether you choose to compare your experience and pain to something better and therefore feel unlucky and bitter, or to something worse and therefore feel lucky and grateful." What if we use the discomfort of our uncomfortable emotions to propel us above the line and receive the wisdom of that emotion? I believe that our bodies contain the wisdom, or that redemptive perspective, on our suffering. Anger teaches us what's not aligned or what needs to be changed. Sadness teaches us what needs to be released or mourned. Fear teaches what needs to be learned, faced, or known. Joy can teach us what needs to be celebrated or appreciated in our lives. Sexual genius or creative emotions teach us what wants to be creative, or what attraction wants to be acknowledged. Our bodies contain so much wisdom to help us continue on our journeys to become. Finally, our T of our heart acronym stands for think and do. It's amazing how clear our thinking becomes as we fully process our emotions. We can discover the thoughts that are not serving us, do the thought work that will help us act from the role of a creator, coach, or challenger, instead of being acted upon by the outside influences around us. The heart of becoming, then, is simply to hope, expect, allow, receive, think, and do. Invite grace into your journey as you connect your mind and body to become the dominant force in your life. My friend Annette has recently been very intentional on this heart journey, especially as she learns to allow and receive from her emotions. I have invited her today to share part of her journey with you. She continues her journey through hope and expectation, through all of her emotions to think, do, and become. Annette, are you here with us tonight?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead. We'd love to hear your story.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm really grateful to be here with you tonight. Just to share a little bit about myself, I started my health journey in June of 2020, and I achieved my healthy weight in about 20 weeks, which was awesome. However, I knew very early on, probably within the first 10 weeks, that I was not going to reach my healthy mindset in 20 weeks. And so I became a coach for accountability so that I could continue to work on my mindset. And in many ways, it feels like my journey has just started. I've stayed involved with my coach, which is Krista. I still work in the life book. I work with my clients. Yet about a year ago, I realized that I was starving all the time. And I'm like, what is going on? And I realized I had emotions I wasn't dealing with. So I want to talk to you about what I'm learning right now. The learning never ends. But I definitely wanted to eat chocolate chips as I got ready to do this. So I'm still working on it. And I want to let you know, I'm also was very resistant to emotional processing. No, don't need to do that. I'm good. I'm so Krista would gently push me along, but I didn't listen super well at first. So just so you know, there's always room for growth. But the last few months, processing emotion is something I've chosen to be very intentional about. And I use that word intention very purposefully because there really has to be intention behind it. I recognized I have some flaws in my thinking about emotions. A couple of things. I have really big emotions. Maybe we all do, but I feel like mine are particularly big. I feel the emotions of others. Some people say, oh, she's an empath or she's a highly sensitive person. But I feel like I've learned over the years that it's not okay to be emotional. And have been frightened of my emotions most of my life. Not just what I perceive as negative emotions or positive emotions. Now, I recognize no emotions, they're neutral. They really aren't good or bad. But in my mind, I can't even classify them as comfortable or uncomfortable because they're all uncomfortable. And then also we've heard people talk about scarcity mentality with money or other areas. I realized I have a scarcity mentality about joy. So did you know you need to process all the emotions? I kind of thought I just need to process the bad ones. But in talking with Krista, remember bad is not necessarily real. But as I talked with Krista, she mentioned that if I was not processing joy, that I was denying joy, which was just leading to more of my scarcity mentality. And my mind was like, what? I have to process joy? So I intentionally process 2 emotions a day at a minimum. I always pick one negative and one positive, and I do them in that order. And I had to start really small. In fact, I had to start so small that I had to start with a contentment journal. It wasn't a joy journal, it was a contentment journal to find the things that make me content in just little moments during my day. And I still do it, but I've been able to expand and recognize where I am feeling positive things in my life. And I use the formula that Krista talks about. I talk about naming it. Now, for me, this is the hardest part. All I know is I got this big emotion going on and I don't even know what it is. I chose something that worked for me. This is the chart that I like because it talks about strong emotions, medium emotions, light emotions, and different categories. And so when I'm feeling an emotion, I actually pull my chart out and say, what am I feeling? And I can always find it on the list because I couldn't recognize them or name them, but now I'm learning to come up with the names for what I'm feeling. And so you can find what resonates for you. The emotion wheel didn't resonate for me, but this resonated for me. So I wanted to share this with you. It's so hard to name it, but it's so vital. And then I locate it. And I want you to say, you can't be wrong. I got caught up in sometimes looking at that chart and saying, but I'm not feeling it here. So is that really what's going on? Trust yourself. Trust where you feel the emotion. Describe it. Help tune into the sensations that you're having. So, and then give it sound and movement. That is such an important thing for me that really helps me to bring it to the surface and actually feel it and to let it shift. And sometimes it's not a sound, sometimes it's a word. And sometimes it's a big movement and sometimes it's a little movement. So and then I learned from it. And I got caught up in those questions that she had earlier, like, oh no, am I getting it right? Am I getting the right thing? And so I've let it go. It's like, what do I need to learn from this emotion? It doesn't matter what anybody else works for them. It's what works for me. So I can always find something. And one other interesting thing that I've done is that if I have a particularly painful or difficult emotion come up, I process that emotion and then I use the chart to find what feels like the opposite emotion for me and then process that one as well so that I get both sides of the spectrum. There are so many ways to process emotion. Some of the other ways I found is like massage, craniosacral work, movement, dance. You just have to be intentional about what you're doing and have it with intention to process emotion. So I just wanted to share that this has been a game changer for me. This has been way more than a diet. It's truly a total health transformation that gets to be continuous. And I look forward to the journey. Thanks, Krista.
Thank you so much for sharing, Annette. It takes great courage to begin processing our emotions. And I know that your story story tonight is creating space for others to become. So I really appreciate you joining us tonight. As we learn to be with our emotions and process them all the way through, we may find that we are spending less and less time in drama. Our emotions become the driving force, shifting our mind and body into presence. We even may find ourselves beginning to stop, challenge, and choose when something external happens, choosing the emotion we want to feel. Presence connects your body and mind. In this way, in this state, you are the dominant force in your life, able to consciously act again instead of being acted upon. The goal is not to necessarily be in presence always, but to be where you are and allow the beauty of the drift and shift cycle to allow for conscious living. So for just a moment to end tonight, I would like to do a little exercise with you. So if you are able, I invite you to go to a quiet space within and imagine for a moment that you have a small acorn held lightly in your hand. Focus your attention on the weight of the acorn in your hand and feel the sensation of the acorn as you slowly roll it around. Take a deep breath in through your nose, breathing in that woodsy smell of the little seed, and then in wonder, exhale slowly through your nose. Continue breathing naturally into your belly through your nose. Imagine that you're walking in a forest of massive oak trees. The leaves are rustling in the wind as if whispering to each other, knowing why you have come. You come to a clearing where a spot has been designated specifically for you to drop this acorn. You can sense that there was once a massive oak in this location that has been prepared the ground for this embryo within your hand. You bend down and whisper to the acorn, "Be an acorn and become." And with a grin, you place it on the ground. Then with your mind, you alter time, watching the embryo use the moisture from the environment and sunlight to germinate. While the roots from the acorn grow deep into the soil, a shoot starts appearing on the surface, along with bright green leaves. The root, known as a taproot, provides a solid foundation for the seedling and also absorbs various nutrients from the soil to support its growth. Notice the nutrients entering your seedling with joy. Bending down, as if talking to a young child, you say, "Nicely done. You are a strong little seedling. Be a seedling and become," gently touching a leaf. The young seedling continues to grow. It only grows 12 to 17 inches each year, but you are watching it as if it's happening right before your eyes. When it is about 3 feet high with a trunk of 3 inches, you feel excitement as the sapling phase begins. You glance at the sun in gratitude for its warmth and light. You watch for the rain and wind, recognizing its integral part in the growth of this young tree. You bend down and whisper, "You are a sapling. Embrace the opposition of the wind. Be a sapling and become." Soon the pole state begins. Slowly and yet right before your eyes, this pole grows taller and thicker, and you whisper in awe, "Be a pole and become." For 20 years, this pole grows into a beautiful oak tree, finally mature enough to produce its own acorns. You marvel as you whisper, "You are an oak tree. Be and become." Over the course of the next 1,000 years, this massive oak tree produces and drops close to 10 million acorns. At full maturity, it has a trunk diameter of more than 12 inches. In awe, you whisper, "You are a massive oak tree. Be and become." Around the 1,000-year mark, the oak tree starts to slowly die, decomposing right before your eyes until it is little more than a stump, and then seemingly gone, adding its nutrients to the soil. And all of a sudden, you are transported to that moment 1,000 plus years ago, recognizing the same spot of ground. Again, you place an acorn in the soil that bears the remnants of your dear friend who prepared the way. You whisper in wonder and awe again, "You are a massive oak tree." You finally see that becoming is not linear, rather it's cyclical. This cycle is embedded directly into who you are and who you are becoming. We can be to become. Thank you for joining us tonight and for participating this month in our Mindful May Bingo. remember to do your week 3 check-in right away and keep an eye out for other opportunities. We have our $50 drawing opportunities that are going to be brought forth soon. So watch for that. And be sure to join us next Wednesday, June 1st, for another Healthy Together time at 5:30 p.m. Pacific and 8:30 Eastern. And thank you again for joining us tonight.